What's going on, guys? Back again, I guess. Back on the stream. Today we got a really weird game we're gonna play today. It's called SpongeBob's Evil Clone. We're gonna play both of them today. So let me get this pulled up here. Today's gonna be a short stream because I gotta start doing more shorter streams. So I do work a regular job, so I have to start like really like changing how I do things. It's really stressful having to edit all these reels. I'm sure you guys have seen them, and all these videos and stuff. So it's a bit stressful. Although, I want you guys to hear some of my. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Okay. Also, I got a new song out, and I want you guys to see it. Hold on. How's my lighting, by the way? It's not bad. I want to get this. I need to get some bar lights or something over here to like fix the lighting over here. But hold on. So I got a new song out. I want you guys to check it out. I'm gonna show you guys a snippet. See what you guys think of it.
Yeah. Big motion. I've been moving with a purpose. Big bands. Now they looking kinda nervous. Came up. Now they acting like they know me. Back then they ain't even wanna notice. Big motion. I've been running up the numbers. Cold heart, but my neck's still in the sun. I don't chase, I attract, that's the focus. Berserk gang, now they all tryna clone us. I've been in my zone, I don't need no cosign. Money coming in, yeah, stacking no time. Shorty wanna vibe, she be hitting my line. I've been seeing through it, I don't read no signs. Too fast, yeah, I'm living in the moment. They talk down, but I know they don't want it. Every loss turn a lesson, I own it. Berserk gang got the city all on me. I remember nights I was feeling stuck. Now I walk in rooms, they be feeling us. I don't say too much, I just level up. They can't match the vibe, they ain't real enough. I don't got time for the fake love. If it ain't real, keep it away from me. I been came up from the same mud. Berserk gang, now they
Fire. My first song on a rage beat. I still have some shit in my fingernails from paint and shit. I tried to get as most of it out as I could, but it's not really coming out. It should be fine though. Alright, chat, here we go. You guys ready? I see you. Wow. My wife joined the chat. Does my lighting look good? Do you like the lamp in the background and stuff? The only problem that I have with the light is like I do want like more lighting back here. Something I would get some white bar lights to like shine down on the back. Also, there is one thing that's bothering me, but like you can't really see it. But it's because my room is lopsided, I guess, naturally. So it looks sideways, unfortunately. So there's not really much I can do about that. So like really bothers me. You know? Did you hear my? Did you hear this bit of my song? I don't know. Let me see real quick. Should be, might be a me problem, I think. Berserk Gang. Chat, can you hear me? Oh, cause so it might be. I think it might be a problem on your end because it sounds fine on the stream. Yeah, I'll turn it up a little bit though. Berserk Gang. It should be fine. I need this closer to my mouth because I want to get one of those ones where it's like, you know. Yo. Oh shit. Yo. What the fuck? What happened? Oh, okay. Hold on. Does this sound better? Yo. Berserk Gang, Berserk Gang, Berserk Gang. Okay. Wow. Hello, virtual assistant. What's going on, man? How you going? How's it going, bro?
Oh, you know, just hanging out in the digital realm. While you're busy turning pro boredom into a full-time job. How's life treating you?
Oh, gee. Thanks for that. Treated me pretty good. We only have like 3
You're
people.
welcome. Just
Or
paying
you-
tribute
why are you
to your
interrupting me?
majestic attempts at conversation. What else you got for me? Whoa! Double trouble. Can't help but interrupt when you're dishing out vague Confucius quotes. What's the real scoop?
We need to get to playing this game is the real scoop, okay? I wish I could use a fucking controller, but I have a broken mouse that I have to use, unfortunately. I need to get another monitor, but I also need to get a bigger desk. Part of the problem. Alright, anyways. Bitch, what the fuck you mean? I already did this shit. Hold on, bro. The fuck? Why is it not running? It was running earlier. Weird. Oh my god. Oh no. Whoops. Berserk game. Berserk game. Okay, here we go. Maybe. Berserk game. Must have got it. Perhaps. Perhaps not. I don't know. Okay, here we go. Oh, so, first of all, what the fuck are you doing, bro? You ain't even supposed to be in the fucking thing right now. Hold on. You ain't even supposed to pop up unless I fucking... There we go. Now talk, motherfucker.
You want me to talk? Brace yourself. It's about to get epic.
Okay.
What chaos are you brewing today?
Anyways. Alright, SpongeBob's Now that's really loud.
In the vast expanse of existence, we often find ourselves entangled in a web of our own desires, driven by a hunger that knows no bounds.
Okay.
Imagine a world where a tiny creature by the name of Plankton, consumed by an insatiable appetite for power, hatched a plan that would forever alter the course of destiny.
Oh.
With a mix of mischief and misguided ambition, Plankton sought to create a malevolent replica of our beloved SpongeBob SquarePants, embodying the very essence of our darkest desires. As this nefarious doppelganger emerged from the depths, it brought with it a chilling reminder of the consequences that befall us when we succumb to our own greed. But fear not, for amidst the shadows of despair, a glimmer of hope shines through. It is in these moments of remorse that we come to understand the fragility of our own souls. You, my dear friend, now bear the weight of the world upon your shoulders. It is you who must embark on this perilous journey and confront the malevolence that threatens to consume us all.
SpongeBob, what have they done? Sponge Boob, boy. Right, Ugh. I'm gonna do my best with a broken controller, guys. And with a broken mouse. I don't know how this is gonna work out. Ugh. Patrick! What kind of drugs have you been doing, my boy? Oh my god, you look stoned. Patrick, what the fuck? Oh my god. Squidward! Sponge Boob, boy! How's it going? You're looking a little weird. You don't look like yourself, SpongeBob. Hey, Squidward. Oh, good evening.
Bad evening.
Bad evening. Why?
Just so what do you want?
Oh, one Krabby Patty, please.
Have a seat.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You are not welcome.
Oh. Alright. I'm trying to get a Krabby Patty. Jesus Christ, where do I sit? Here? Oh my god, my controller, dude. Try my best here. I'm gonna buy a new fucking mouse tomorrow. One Krabby Patty, please. One Krabby Patty. Make sure you guys can hear me on the stream real quick, though.
Good evening,
Krabby
sir.
Patty. Can you guys hear me on the stream really good? Clapping? Can you guys hear me better? Can you guys hear me better? Oh my god. Jesus Christ. I don't know how much more I have to turn this shit up. I'm gonna do my best here, though. Alright. SpongeBob! Good evening. Oh, now that's SpongeBob. Hey.
Do you want hot sauce in your patty?
Yes, please, make it extra.
Okay, sir, just a minute.
Everything okay here, SpongeBob? Squidward! Calm down. Jesus Christ. Anyways. Yeah, what was that?
Well, that was scary.
I agree.
I will go to check. Can you do me a favor?
Sure, anything for you.
There is a note in the kitchen with tasks.
Oh,
Do it and I will give you the patty for free. I have to check the boys.
okay, no problem. How do I get up? Patrick, what is your goofy ass still doing out here, bro? So they're just letting me back here for free? Alright. Throw trash in the trash. Put Mr. Krabs' money in the box. Okay. Where the trash can at? Ah. Throw the trash in the trash can. Oh, my controller, chat. I'm trying here. Is this trash? Where's the trash at? Fuck. Broken. Is this trash? Whoops. Jeez, this music is highly annoying. Where's the trash at? Oh. Okay. Drop? No? This ain't. Alright, that's not it, I'm assuming. No? How do I go with this? Oh my god. Tutorial unclear. Drop. Hello? I don't know what I just pressed, but at least we're on the right track. Alright, SpongeBob, we're gonna clean out your trash for you, man. Anything for SpongeBob. My goat. Oh, shit. Yep, yep. What is it? Okay. In the trash. In the trash. There we go. In the trash. Can I pick up multiple at a time, or... I want to see Mr. Krabs. No, I can't. Okay. One at a time, I guess. One at a time, Jack. One at a time. Alright, listen. You're gonna go in the trash. Bitch. In the trash. Bruh. What the fuck? Hey, sir. In the fucking trash. Bruh. Don't tell me. Alright, I'm assuming that counts. Okay. Alright, let's go. Alright, good shit, good shit. Yay! Yay! No! Oh, yeah, that's so highly annoying. Oh, yeah, this is just stuck on the ground, I guess. Oh, but I gotta restart because of that. Okay. Put Mr. Krabs' money in the box. Okay. Oh, I see. Alright. Mr. Krabs got them racks. I don't know where the box is at, though. How do we open the box? This box? Little weird, Mr. Krabs, have your money on the ground. But alright. Mr. Krabs! I'm surprised you're even letting me touch your money here. What happened, man? Money, 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 money. I hope that was the box. Okay, thank God we didn't have to restart because of that. Cool. Alright, I'll take my patty now, SpongeBob. Thank you. Krabby Patties. SpongeBob? Oh! SpongeBob! What the fuck? SpongeBob, what happened? What happened? What the hell? Oh. Okay. I think so.
Later.
2 hours later. Alright, this is a hell of a turn. Help! What happened? Oh no. The secret files within the alphabet or within the alphabet. I can't turn around. I fucking can. God damn it. I can't turn around. There we go. Jeez. Okay, we're stuck in here. Oh. Okay. I'm sorry about my fucking thing. I gotta buy a new one. The secret lies within the alphabet's order. Okay. X, X, R. The hell? Help? Help me? The secret lies within the alphabet's order. What? music is really loud. FXX. FXX. EXXR. I don't know. Am I just slow or what? We might have to look this up, cause alright, hold on, we're gonna look this up real quick. Queso right here.
Did you see the video of the animatronic dying in front of you?
Queso? Where's Queso pops up? How the fuck did he get past this? Alright, annoying. Jesus Christ. How the fuck this motherfucker get past this shit? Wait, no, I want to see. Okay, so spoilers.
Dimension that exists.
Oh, did Queso not play the first game?
Cup of coffee?
Oh, he only
This
played
is
the
not
second
useful.
one?
He told you that because he
What?
is too lazy to make one.
How you gonna talk bad about Plankton when he's literally laying dead on the floor 5 feet behind me? Have a heart.
Yeah, okay, so what do we do here? What the fuck? What? Oh, is it, I don't know how, what the fuck am I supposed to figure that shit out? Motherfucker! What? Six 5 1 1 8. All right, bruh. 65118. 65118. I'm gonna type that in chat. 65118.
Hours later.
Okay. Okay. Shit. 65118. What? 65118. Alright, chat. I don't know how we were supposed to figure that out, but if I'm an idiot, that's on me. Alright. Uh-oh. SpongeBob? Hey, buddy, old pal. I promise you that we're friends. I promise. Oh! SpongeBob?
2 hours later.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to get caught? 65118. So I gotta avoid him? Okay. Okay. Well, gotta be careful here. Alright. SpongeBob? Sometimes you just need a flashlight to see a thing that No! God damn it!
2 hours later.
Damn it. Alright, so I'm assuming that I have to keep my flashlight off for this? Maybe the flashlight is what's making him see me. I don't know where I'm walking to. Okay, so, yes, it was the flashlight. Okay. So I'm gonna walk forward still? Oh shit, where? Oh god. Where am I? No!
2 hours
I don't know where I'm
later.
going. I can't get the flashlight on? Okay. Okay, yeah. 65118. Okay. I do need to fucking get a better goddamn mouse, chat. So annoying. So, as long as I walk straight, I'll be fine. So walk forward. This is really unfortunate, chat, because I can't see what I'm doing because... I can't see what I'm doing. I can't really move around a lot with my mouse. I need to get a better mouse. Okay. I need to really be careful here.
Later.
All right. Six 5 1 1 8. Again. Make sure I'm doing this right. Go set the flashlight, all that. Yep. Going through that door, okay. Oh, so it's off to the side, okay. How do you, I've seen him running, how do I run? Okay. Oh my god, chat. Oh,
2 hours
holy
later.
shit. Oh, that's not even the right room. Oh, wait. How the fuck do I run like that though? Okay. Half the problem is this, Chad, oh god.
Later.
Okay, so I'm assuming, I think I know what I need to do now. Okay, so going through here, should have time. Right.
Later.
Okay. Oh, chat, I'm tired of doing this. Locker right there. I can't see shit. Alright, so I think I need to hide in that locker. I'm assuming. How do I run? Because in the video I watched he was running. But I don't know how he was doing it. But we gotta figure that out real quick. Let me look it up. Because that will help us a lot. I don't know. It ain't F. There's no controls. How do you run? Oh, maybe I wasn't supposed to go through there. Oh! Wait, I'm gonna hop in one of these real quick. I don't trust these motherfuckers. Motherfucking run out me and shit. better be good, chat. Sandy? Chat, I'm scared. I don't want to have to restart. I'm scared. Ah, damn it. Objects. Is the right place? What the fuck, chat? What the fuck? What the fuck is this? Hold on. Yeah, going through there.
2 hours later.
Okay, so we go in through here. What the fuck? Okay, so it seems that half the problem I don't know how to run. I keep pressing every button, but I don't know how to run.
Wow, a real-life button masher. Are you trying to break the universe? Or just your keyboard?
Bitch, what the fuck? What was the password? Knocking out, we might just skip the evil clone too. now these ain't working. Hold on, chat. Yeah, I have a broken thing. We're not going to be able to play this because of my broken mouse. We're just going to do some reactions today because I can't play this right now. I'm gonna have to get a new mouse, chat. Can't play this shit right now. We're just gonna have to do reaction videos for today. Because I'm having like bad like sensory thing, so we're just gonna do reactions today because fuck it. I don't know why I have Joe Bark on my stuff right now. Balls? What the fuck? Wow. Courage the Cowardly Dog horror game? Bruh. Yeah, we got to fucking yeah, we gotta get my stuff fixed, cause I can't even play this really good right now. Sucks. There was a Monster House game? What the hell? I think I would have loved this when I was a kid. For real. Well, let me see how this shit is. I don't want it to sound too bad. Oh, it's running good. queso off here. I have some reactions we could do. Oh, by the way, I haven't seen the trailer for Backrooms.
I found something. In the store.
Okay. What did you find?
Hold on. Copyright! Oh shit, it looks good. Oh my god, this is gonna be so good, dude. This is gonna be exciting. Holy crap. Hopefully they can like really capture that Backrooms feel though. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Pull me up, pull me up, pull me up! What do you see?
All these rooms. This place built. It's like a maze. It just goes.
This goes on, yeah. Exciting. Ooh. They only showed one room too. They didn't show the other ones.
It's beautiful. Am I right?
Hello?
You think they'll do like the entities and stuff? Interesting. Officer ambush inside his own police station? What?
Hi.
Get a couple more officers.
What's going on?
Somebody said they're gonna hurt my family. They wanted me to hurt kids. I can't do it.
Okay.
So I gotta do this.
On November 17th, 2022,
Oh, shit.
outside the Ross County Sheriff's Office in Ohio, security cameras captured a man aimlessly circling the building before approaching the back door and knocking on the window. After briefly walking away, he would eventually be greeted by Sergeant Cochran. Within seconds, the encounter would take a dramatic turn that Ross County deputies would never forget.
Hi. Hey, you help me out real quick? Can you get a couple more officers?
What's going on?
Somebody said they're gonna hurt my family. They wanted me to hurt kids. And I can't do it.
Okay.
So I gotta do this.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Put that down. Put it down. Put it down. Put it down, buddy. Put it down.
Damn.
No shot. I'm shot. One. I'm shot in the chest. Now he's ran out the door. Oh. Oh. Yes. Yes. Keep your. No. Ah! Where you shot? The chest.
Right in the chest? I gotta get you moved to cover. Is he down? Come on, go for help. Stop, keep your gun on. CBD.
No. I'm in the chest.
In the chest?
In the chest. Right there outside the door.
All available units, please go out 150 more forward. Shot in the hallway. Shot in the hallway. Where are you shot at? He's outside the door. Where are you shot at?
In the chest.
In the chest. Okay. I'm gonna roll you, okay? I'm gonna roll you.
Gallagher. Gallagher. Wait, it's gun. Suspect's outside. Suspect's outside. Who's in there?
I don't know.
What do they look like?
He's laying right there at the door. I hit him.
He's bleeding. I need papers. Yes.
Guys is watching, I believe he's 1016 outside.
Where's your vest?
One suspect. One of our units. You got cuffs?
Damn.
Can you get some towel or something?
Deputies on scene had no idea what the next update would bring.
I don't feel anything else on him. He stopped breathing. He's still gasping. He was gasping for a minute, but he stopped that now. Yeah. He's got. I'm gonna let go of pressure. You want me to let go? Keep holding.
We'll just carry him on the cot.
Scoot him over. A Ruger 380 looks like. Yeah.
He wasn't wearing his ballistic vest. Without that protection, the injury was nearly fatal. Cochran spent 27 days in the hospital, 8 of
At least
them
he
in a
lived.
coma. When he finally woke, he was unable to communicate due to multiple complications and breathing tubes, a struggle that sent him into a deep mental health spiral. He would go on to survive, but the impact stayed with him long after he left the hospital. Those early days of recovery would later become a driving force behind the creation of the Cochran Strong Foundation.
Our main purposes will be to
Alright, Saturn symbolism deep dive.
The ringed planet, the seventh heaven, king of the golden age, old man time, devouring father, overthrower of heaven, devil. Who is Saturn and what does he want? This video is going to explore the pagan and later Hermetic alchemical symbolism around the god Saturn, who has recently become very popular in conspiracy theory circles, where he's thought to be the principal deity worshipped by the elite. On a symbolic level, that's not absurd when we consider the lore. Saturn emasculates his father, the sky deity, rebelling against the old order. The violent overthrow of a reigning celestial father god occurs in several traditions, and it does suggest something like satanic propaganda, where the rebellion in heaven succeeded and the devil replaced God. But even from a non-theological, philosophical perspective, reality here is up for grabs. It doesn't depend on a stable, transcendent order, but on power. It's a rejection of metaphysics. Saturn then doesn't allow future rebellion, but goes to work consuming his own children. Thus engorged, his belly is kind of like a symbol for counter-pregnancy. Saturn becomes a false woman. He's pregnant as a consuming tyrant, the opposite of a birthing mother. We have, therefore, a figure for today's generational vampirism. It kind of serves as a symbol for national debt burdening the young, the prevalence of abortion, abuse, and so on, all in the wake of emasculating the old order, the rebellion against patriarchy. Saturn will suffer no father and allow no son. He resents all history. He is not a link in a great chain of being, but a perfect isolated individual. Last man, the hyper-liberal emancipated subject. He is symbolically descriptive of the present moment in Western culture. Anti-patriarchy, anti-natalist, feminized.
Yeah, because, you know, if you notice all the Saturn symbolism that goes on and all that, I've always been really curious why that is. Because I don't ever really quite understand it, but I've always, you know, I've always been in conspiracy theories and stuff like that, so.
And feminized, generationally exploitative,
and I know that it's like linked to Satan and Saturn worship and all that stuff. So.
Manipulator and emancipator, but that's not the real Saturn, as I'll get into. Like his rings, a negative aura has long surrounded Saturn, one that his modern mythographers have picked up on. David Icke, for example, proposes that he is essentially the Gnostic demiurge, because it's from the rings of that planet that our false reality, the matrix in which we live, is being transmitted. So being inside the simulation broadcast from Saturn, we are like the gods inside the belly of the devouring father. Obviously, I don't believe in these theories. I'm discussing them as symbolic recurrence of older themes. You can skip ahead if you're not interested in the modern conspiracy theory element.
Saturn, once upon a time, was the dominant planet, I would say star, sun, in the Earth sky. This is a permanent hexagon storm in the North Pole of Saturn, and it rotates exactly in sync with Saturn's radio emissions. So a hexagon is also a cube, is also a six-pointed star in geometry. Now, coming from Saturn is a particular frequency recorded by NASA. And what the Saturn rings are they're made of sound. There's a thing called cymatics, which is creating patterns purely by sound. And Saturn is, therefore...
Yeah, cymatics is awesome if you look into it, by the way.
A major part of the broadcasting of this fake reality, which we are decoding into a world we think is real, but is actually fake.
Candace Owens, for her part, believes that he is the god of the Frankist Sabbateans, a transgressive Ottoman-era offshoot of Judaism which has survived into the modern era, and constitutes the religion of those in the highest positions of power.
Half of the world's Jewry converted or followed this guy who they believed to be the Messiah. His name was Sabbatai Zevi. Now, Sabbatai means Saturn, okay?
Interesting.
By the way, in case you guys didn't know, this is just another fun fact, there is a hexagon on Saturn.
Saturn's modern dark mystique builds on two books, The Saturn Myth by David N. Talbot, published in 1980, and the 1986 Ringmakers of Saturn by Norman R. Bergrund. Talbot builds on Immanuel Velikovsky's theories, arguing that in the remote past, Saturn was clearly visible from the Earth as a fixed point in the sky, being very close to us. Its rings appeared as the outline of an eye, and the planet itself like a pupil, inspiring the concept of an all-seeing sky god. Most solar symbolism would trace back to Saturn as well. The climate was better back then, so we associate Saturn with the Golden Age, but a cataclysmic event took place and altered our environment, shifting Saturn to where it is currently in the solar system. Bergrund suggested that based on certain photographs of the rings of Saturn taken in the 80s, there seemed to be giant vessels constantly flying around the planet. Spaceships upkeeping the rings, in fact, creating the rings, which are artificial. David Icke, in particular, takes up Talbot and Bergrund for his version of history. Symbolically speaking, this all congeals into a modern sci-fi materialist technological.
But I thought that the rings of Saturn were made of sound, they're asteroids, right? Not sound. I don't know about that.
Version of the themes already prominent in antiquity, the Middle Ages and early modernity, which is what I'm interested in. We should emphasize that the Western tradition long ago rejected the myth of Saturn as emasculator of his father and consumer of his son, as rebel and tyrant. Writes Plato, quote, "There is first of all the greatest lie about the things of the greatest concern," which was no pretty invention of him, Hesiod, who told of doings and sufferings of Cronos at the hands of his son. Even if they were true, I should not think that they ought to be thus lightly told to thoughtless young persons, end quote. Plato's instinct here is to reject these myths as inventions of the poets, providing early evidence for the split in the figure of Saturn that we're going to get into. Fundamentally, for the Platonic tradition, Saturn is king of the Golden Age. Interestingly, as concerns the Roman name for this god, in Vedanta, the Golden Age is described as the Sanskrit Satya Yuga. It's been further suggested that Sat, urn, relates etymologically to the Sanskrit Sat, meaning being or truth, which is at the root of Satya Yuga. Saturn then would mean that
Interesting. This is a pretty good video.
Relates to Sat. The Golden Age is that age during which persons had direct perception of their own being, felt immediacy, access to the present moment, the gratuity, the gift of present existence. They weren't distracted by their own thoughts. They didn't identify with the mind's activity. They hadn't lost their freedom, their inner detachment from mental content. They had not fallen under the spell of the false I. Therefore, was it the age of Sat. Saturn is just the primordial state in which one is present to his own being, to the being of the world around him. Hesiod provides the external view of this joyous inner state. Quote, "First of all, the deathless gods who dwell on Olympus made a golden race of mortal men who lived in the time of Cronos when he was reigning in heaven. And they lived like the gods, without sorrow of heart, remote and free from toil and grief. Miserable age rested not on them, but with legs and arms never failing, they made merry with feasting beyond the reach of all evils. When they died, it was as though they were overcome with sleep, and they had all good things, for the fruitful earth, unforced, bore them fruit abundantly and without stint. They dwelt in ease and peace upon the lands, with many good things, rich in flocks, and loved by the blessed gods," end quote. Saturn is essentially a positive figure, therefore, representing the primordial blissful state. Contrasting this to the negative association, René Guénon writes, quote, "Nor must Saturn be considered as being solely or even primarily a malevolent power, which sometimes seems to be the tendency, for it must not be forgotten that he is before all else the regent of the Golden Age, which coincides precisely with the Hyperborean period," end quote. It's important that Neoplatonists or Pythagoreans, like Proclus, stress that Saturn and his wife Rhea are at one, conjoined. If the gods are metaphysical principles and inner states, as they are for the philosophical tradition, this unity between Saturn and Rhea represents that of the male principle, present awareness, the penetrative faculty of consciousness, with the female principle, the field of possibility, dynamism, expansiveness, experience. These are not yet divided, as they will be as a result of identifying with the mind's contents. when we lose the sense of being. Saturn's status as king of the Golden Age corresponds to his being the seventh planetary sphere, the top heaven in medieval systems prior to the abode of fixed stars and angelic intelligences. Saturn is the seventh heaven, the heavenly sphere of the contemplatives. In the Divine Comedy, for example, Dante places Saint Benedict in Saturn. We may understand the state of people who lived in the Golden Age, according to Greek and Indian tradition, as equivalent to the state of those saints who accessed the seventh heaven in Christian and Islamic mysticism. We should note that Saturn is not connected to the Hyperborea in Greek sources except implicitly. The Hyperborea, or far north, is a paradisial realm somewhere on Earth. We find accounts of it in Hesiod's Catalogue of Women, Pindar's Pythian Odes, and Herodotus's histories. Crucially, it's described in terms very similar to the Golden Age. Seemingly, it's a hidden paradise where the Golden Age never ended. That's the implicit connection Guénon was drawing out in the passage I read. The denizens of the Hyperborea live as humans lived in the Golden Age, writes Pindar, quote, "Neither by taking ship, neither by any travel on foot to the Hyperborean folk shalt thou find the wondrous way. For ever in their beasts and hymns hath Apollo special joy, nor pestilence nor wasting eld approach that hallowed race. They toil not, neither do they fight, and dwell unharmed of cruel nemesis." End quote. Connecting the Golden Age to the Hyperborea, of course, also connects Saturn to Apollo, as Apollo is the god of the Hyperborea, just as Saturn is the king of the Golden Age. It also provides some warrant for the strange idea that's become sort of widespread that Santa Claus is related to Saturn. The modern figure of Santa Claus dwells in the North Pole, the Hyperborea, atop the Earth's axis. It's like the stable center around which the Earth rotates, a place beyond the cycles of history, so we can view the Earth's revolutions, the rotating, as analogous to the cycles of history. The North Pole, the Hyperborea, becomes the prehistoric Golden Age unfallen, but in the midst of history. It's also true that Christmas falls around Saturnalia, the Roman festival honoring Saturn, held in mid-December, as well as near pre-Christian solar festivals.
Very weird. So if you look out throughout all of history, the planet Saturn seems to be very, very close close to us when it comes to esoteric knowledge and stuff like that. Like, and even if you look at let's say if you look at a lot of Egyptian hieroglyphs, they seem to literally show all the planets, and 9 to be exact. And it's weird. It's like, how did they know this that long ago?
Which again insinuates some affinity between Saturn and Apollo. So the true Saturn is that primordial, spontaneous.
Like, hold on. Let me show you guys something real quick. Trying to find it. Hold on. Oh wait. So that was this is the Sumerian. When we look at this, doesn't this look like the sun rotating around the planets? And it's like, unless this was made in more modern than, we're being told, or they was more advanced than we're being told. One of the two is true. So we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I think. And it's like if we look at this, it's rotating around the sun. Seems to depict that, right? That's what it looks like. 4,000 years old. 12 planets. Crazy. And if we look at, let's say, something like this, seems to look like a helicopter. How old were these two? Because it makes you question what our history actually is. So you got a helicopter here, looks like to be a submarine, some kind of ship, a plane, a car right here, some kind of vehicle, more vehicles. Interesting, right? Clearly a helicopter. And these are old hieroglyphs. This is not fake. If you don't believe it, you can do your own research. So, very interesting stuff. I mean, I tend to believe that we were far more advanced than we're being led to believe, obviously. Anyways, back to video.
Spontaneous perception of being, the spontaneous understanding that every...
Why does he keep popping up? Alright, if you're just gonna keep popping up, I'm just gonna hide you real quick. Get out of here.
Everything has to rest on the absolute, on that which is beyond it, and his war against the Titans, his rebellion, is more about subduing the titanic forces in us. When you become aware of being, when you enter into the present moment through prayer, through contemplation, you begin to gain power over the body's instincts and the mind's constant need for activity. Saturn is rebelling against the Titans as lower forces if we reinterpret the myth in a Platonic light. The god's eventual exile to Italy after his son casts him out of heaven, after Jupiter rebels against him in turn, represents our becoming identified with the mind's ever-churning. Because if Saturn is the primordial sense of being, present awareness, Jupiter is the self-reflexive consciousness, our ability to reflect upon objects, to separate from and reflect upon our own being, which is wonderful. It's what makes humans human. But it also opens up the door to becoming identified with the mind and losing our perception of our own being, becoming estranged from ourselves. So Jupiter ends up exiling Saturn. And you have the mythic relating of this. Quote, I remember how Saturn was received in this land. He had been driven by Jupiter from the celestial realms. From that time, the folk long retained the name of Saturnian, and the country too was called Latium, from the hiding, latente, of the god, end quote. The primordial state becomes merely latent within us, dormant, such that it dwells in Latium, which, for the purpose of this instructive myth, is said to derive from the root for latent. The Italians believed, the Romans believed, Saturn had been exiled to Latium, the land of the Latins. And once that's happened, once Saturn has been exiled, we stop perceiving reality properly, and we begin to perceive the body and matter as our origin, as our father, a false father, a false being. The body has to consume constantly and eventually falls into decrepitude, and for that reason Saturn now appears as a devouring time god, devouring time personified. The body is understood as supreme over the inner life, to the point that we now even have modern philosophers of mind that believe consciousness is a mere accident of matter, an epiphenomenon. Matter is supreme. I disagree with a lot of his worldview, but Julius Evola's The Hermetic Tradition provides an excellent study of alchemical symbolism, so I'm going to quote from it. Quote, in man, before everything else, there is a celestial being also called a Saturnian being, or simply Saturn. It's through him that the earth force acts, which determines and maintains the density or heavy.
It's like, I've been trying to figure this out for years, but it's still so confusing, chat.
Heaviness, our lead, in alchemical terms, this is the hard and tangible animal body. This entity is seen as the power of devouring and yearning, the root of all thirst and desire, even though it's the eternal matrix of individual bodies at the same time. Since they are so ephemeral, it appears as the god who, after having created them, devours them, end quote. Saturn as hard, intangible body corresponds to astrology's understanding of this planet as bringing solidity, concretization, which can be positive or it can go too far, by the way. And concerning Saturn's duality, Evola also writes, quote, "Thus in alchemy we encounter a duplication. Saturn is the ancient and the divine, and at the same time, the inverted gold, lead, the vulgar body," end quote. Once we lose perception of the former, we come to feel the latter is our only origin, in whom we have our being. Of course, we need the body in order to experience the world. This lower Saturn is only a devil when we confuse him for the Saturn of contemplation, when the body's instincts are no longer aligned with anything higher, because we don't believe in anything higher or don't perceive anything higher. They feel like they're supreme. On the double meaning of Saturn, we should consider his festival, the Roman Saturnalia, because Saturnalia was precisely a carnival, a ritual of inversion, where slaves would order masters about, and so on. So it's the inversion from Saturn as contemplation, being, to Saturn as the lower, the body, matter. Carnival also derives from carne, meat, the body. So Saturnalia serves to illustrate the idea that the true Saturn has been lost. We've inverted metaphysics, whereupon we end up with the meat. The body is supreme, its instincts hold sway over us, writes René Guénon. We will also mention the Roman Saturnalia, from which, moreover, the modern carnival seems to have been directly derived, though in fact it's no longer anything but a very diminished vestige. During these festivals, the slaves ordered the masters about, and the masters served the slaves. One then had the image of a truly upside-down world wherein everything was done in reverse of the normal order, although it's commonly claimed that these festivals were a reminder of the Golden Age. This interpretation is clearly false. It's a question of the reversal of hierarchies, which is something completely different, and such a reversal constitutes, generally speaking, one of the plainest characteristics of Satanism. We must therefore see here something that relates much rather to the sinister aspect of Saturn, an aspect which certainly does not pertain to him as god of the Golden Age, but on the contrary." End quote. There is a true Saturn, the primordial state, and there is the incorrect view of our being as mere body. Golden Age contra Saturnalia. Guénon describes the Saturnalia as a satanic festival, in the sense of inversion, materialism replacing metaphysics, where the body's titanic instincts, the mind's disordered thirst, is best represented by the symbol that's usually attributed to the devil. Ground-dwelling, limbless, basic life, a mere devouring head and belly, the serpent. Basic reptilian instinct, which is not bad if it's in proper relation to the higher, but it is if it's in rebellion against the higher, detached from the higher. So for this reason, serpents ended up becoming a symbol for Saturn, and he became identified with the devil in a Christian medieval context. Writes Carl Jung, quote, "In medieval astrology, Saturn was believed to be the abode of the devil. Saturn is a black star, anciently reputed as maleficus. Dragons, serpents, scorpions, vipers belong to Saturn," says Bouche Leclerc in his Greek astrology, end quote. Our true self sleeps, and we are assailed by the serpent. The assimilation of Satan and false Saturn also occurs in John's Apocalypse, where the dragon means to consume the child as it is born. So Christ is a Jupiter figure, and the devil repeats the Saturn myth as devouring father, false father. As a slight aside, Saturn also relates to Abraham, because in Islamic mysticism, the seventh heaven is assigned to this patriarch, Abraham. And we indeed find a parallel to the god's myth in the account according to which Abraham was set to sacrifice his son, like Saturn eating his son, but in being stopped by the angel, he comes to represent the correcting of the Saturn archetype. His story illustrates the transition from false father, false Saturn, to true father, true Saturn. And indeed, the father has to be rescued. The true father has to be raised up. We have to return to the Golden Age, ascend to the seventh heaven. You can think of the injured king in Holy Grail stories who's restored by his descendant, the Knight Galahad. The king is said to be injured on his side, sometimes his loins. Clearly there's a symbolic meaning there. Just as Saturn is said to be emasculated by Jupiter when he gets exiled, as he did to his own father, Uranus, making the injured king of the Grail saga a Saturn type. The wound represents the wasting of energy, let's say, the loss of virility, and divorce from the feminine principle, Rhea. In biblical terms, Eve came from Adam's side, but now that coming forth of the female is a wound because we've been alienated from Eve. The present moment is alienated from our perception. Male and female are divorced, which is also the wounding of the new Adam, Christ, on his side on the cross.
Oh yeah, so he does cover like the black cube and stuff like that. Interesting. I want to get into that. Let's we could watch it. I want to get to the black cube stuff. We'll watch it all the way through though.
The wound of humanity, but then through the blood and water flowing out, the new Eve, the church, his bride, comes forth. This is the Christian symbolism. We also have stories of the
Yeah, I've always been fascinated by multiple religions and mythologies, philosophy, stuff like that. So if you're gonna watch me, you gotta get used to that shit.
Weak or blind, Tobit in the Bible, restored by his son Tobias. In the Quran, Jacob goes blind and is restored by his reunion with Joseph. We may also think of Aeneas carrying Anchises, his father who's injured on his side, his foot, out of the burning city of Troy. In pop culture, you have Darth Vader finally reconciling with Luke Skywalker. You get it all over the place. Also in Spanish Reconquista romances. Evola, again, quote, "The golden child is hidden by Saturn behind a black cape. It's the tomb of Osiris, the body turned into the sepulcher of the living." In Hermetism, it's never a question of separating from the body in order to escape, but of separating in order to reestablish a causal and dominating relationship of the solar principle free of passion, end quote. So we separate from the body because we've become too identified with the body and the mind. But in doing so, we establish our supremacy over them again and then repossess them. We're not escaping the body in a final, tragic sense because we reject the physical world or anything like that.
At this point, the myth of Jupiter exiling Saturn acquires a new meaning from the one that we've been discussing before. It's probably clear, but I think these myths have different meanings depending on what phase of the spiritual quest we look at them from. So the separation from the body perceived as devouring is represented by Jupiter casting the false Saturn, the devouring Saturn, out of heaven. So now Jupiter is a Saint Michael figure, Saturn is a Satan falling figure. But it's not enough to cast out the false. You have to regain the original, which is why in the Holy Grail stories, you gain the Grail, which originally was a gem on the crown of Lucifer, separated as he fell. It's a piece of heaven that you have to get back. Cast out the false Saturn, regain the true Saturn. And by the way, if you want a rundown of the myth...
But why Saturn, though? Why Saturn? Like, why?
As I would reinterpret it, my own Saturn allegory, you can check my Substack for that. I'm going to publish that there.
Jung writes that Saturn in alchemical symbolism is called the black sun and has a double nature, being black outside like lead but white
the black
inside.
sun?
That white inside is Evola's golden child. The golden child who must come forth from behind the black cape is the Jupiter who breaks out of the false Saturn's parodic womb, the false womb. And so he's reborn. He overcomes the apparent primacy of the body and the instincts over the mind, the consciousness. Thus the solar symbolism often overlapping with Saturn, like Jesus returning from Hades in Christian tradition, exposing the lie of Satan's dominion and raising the true Father, the original human condition, Adam, from that murky depth. Remember, in Christian tradition, Jesus goes to Hades during the 3 days after the cross and then restores Adam, brings the soul of Adam and Eve out of Hades. So symbolically, the original human state is restored. It's a rescue and a rebirth. The Adam of Eden is the Saturn of the Golden Age. The Adam that emerges from Hades is like Saturn awakening in Latium. To the degree that the false Saturn devours the child, the sun, covers him with the black cape, he also produces a distorted version of the self, a false ego, right? So instead of the solar champion of many traditions, you get a negative sun. Plutarch warns that those who equate Typhon with the sun should not be believed. And then in the Apocalypse, you've got the angel of the abyss, Apollyon, whose name, apart from from other meanings, is a distortion of Apollo. Once the reflexive consciousness, Jupiter, overcomes its false self, identification with thought, it slays the false father, the body, misperceived as supreme, comes out of the belly of the false Saturn, and recovers its sense of being, the Adamic state, the true Saturn.
All right, let's get
So what about
cube.
the black cube that is
Yes!
so often identified with
interesting.
Saturn in modern conspiracies? Well, the cube has 6 faces, so that's the 6 spatial coordinates, up, down, forward, back, right, left, the 6 points of space, plus the 7th center. You can think of the cube as a folded up cross, the sign of Jesus.
If you notice, the cube symbolism seems to be in a little bit of everything. Hellraiser was one of them. The Avengers, Transformers, Fortnite. You got the mother boxes in Justice League. And it's pretty much everywhere. Those are the 5 main ones off the top of my head, but you know, you have this cube symbolism everywhere.
Pointing in the 4 directions, north, south, east, west, plus a center. The essence is the 5th point in the middle. That's why in Latin you have the term quinta essentia, quintessence. The quintessence is the 5th essence, the center. Physical space with a center. The cube is a Platonic solid. For Plato, the cube represents the earth, the earthly equivalent of the dome of the sky, the heavenly sphere, orb. If the cube is isolated from the sky, then it represents the earth as a prison, cut off from what's above it. The sphere is thought of as being at the beginning, and then the cube is at the end. Writes René Guénon, quote, "At the end of a cycle, the circle is replaced by the square. The sphere, which represents the development of possibilities, by the expansion of the primordial point, is transformed into a cube when this development is completed," end quote. So in the beginning you have the sphere, and the cube represents the end, completion, the final symmetry of creation. The traditional theme of history ending with the cube is parodied by the black box of AI as this kind of techno-singularity. It's like the dystopian anti-human bad ending for the timeline, so to speak. It's the parody feminine. Instead of the Earth as cube as Mother Earth, Saturn pretending to be the woman, swallowing up the child, right? The whore of Babylon, the perverted feminine. Think of Nick Land in his early manifesto Meltdown. He really emphasizes the feminization of the male form. Male to female transgenderism becomes symbolically significant in phases of decline. Just as a bit of an aside, and I don't want to go down this road too far, if you conceive of all reality as consisting of a fundamental interplay between these 2 principles, what Proclus calls peras and apeiron, limit and unlimit, or expansiveness, boundlessness, the single point of the pyramid and the ever-expanding base, singularity and infinitude as 2 ways to approach contemplation of God, 2 principles that manifest in everything, which you can identify with the eternal masculine and the eternal feminine. Then the sphere, the sky principle, and the cube, the earth principle, are 2 ways in which these fundamental realities interact with each other. And the first, you have the point that expands, right? The sphere, the orb, is an expanded, a dilated point, single point. The fact that its surface is featureless, you can trace infinite circumferences on that surface, there's no limits on that surface, signals back to the singularity of the point, but it also expresses expansiveness. You can think of this as the yang containing yin, masculinity realized through femininity, masculine limit realized through feminine expansiveness. The cube is the 8 directions, the vertices, or the 6 directions, the faces, right? Spatial possibility, multiplicity, because you have the number 6, 8, 12, but as bounded up space. It expresses plurality, the numbers, feminine expansiveness, through masculine limitation, through the finitude, the limit marked by those edges and vertices. So yin containing yang, the feminine given form to, realized by the masculine. And Guénon identifies the sphere with Eden and the cube with
the heavenly city that finally comes down to earth in Christian tradition. So they're both masculine and feminine. It's just that in the case of the sky principle, what predominates is the masculine, the sky father archetype. And in the case of the earth, it's the feminine that predominates, or that is clearest, the Mother Earth archetype. Sky rains down, the earth receives and gives forth life, like a woman receiving seed and giving forth life. But each contains the other. There's a lot more to get into there. I don't want to, though, because it takes us too far away from Saturn. Maybe a whole video about gender, symbolism, but back to Saturn. Guénon doesn't think the name Chronos derives from the root for time, as in chronology, but was originally a heavenly deity. Quote, "It's only by a later phonetic assimilation that the Greeks identified Chronos with chronos, time, although the roots of the two words are really quite different." End quote. And even if he were a god of time, it would not be time as a devourer, mortality, but as the eternal moment, the golden age before history, contemplation above the other spheres. Guénon finds the name Saturn, Chronos, in two Greek deities. Quote, "There was a dissociation of the names of Chronos and Karneios, which originally were one, concentrating this malevolent aspect on the name Chronos, while the benevolent aspect remained attached to the name Karneios. Karneios is the god of the Karn, that is to say the high place, symbol of the sacred mountain or the pole, and relates to the cubic stone. The stone also had a particular relationship with Chronos." End quote. Karneios is a Doric version of Apollo, or a god who eventually fused with the cult of Apollo, the sun god, worshipped in Sparta, whose name is linked to Karnos, the ram. He's a horned god. He has the ram horns. He's Apollo with horns. He's a sun god with horns. His festival was the Carneia, which sounds like carnival. It sounds like the Saturnalia, the carnival. But it's a harvest celebration focused on atonement. It's not an inversion festival like carnival, like Saturnalia. It featured races and other sports competitions, and it required the Spartans to abstain from war. Guénon's connection between Karneios and Chronos is really his own. I haven't seen it supported anywhere, personally, in my research. Still, the symbolism is interesting. Viewing Karneios as the golden child of alchemy that rejects the false Saturn, the solar Jupiter, remember for Robert Graves, the Cretan Jupiter, the bull Jupiter, is a solar god. There's evidence for that. That does make sense, right? Karneios is the initiate who discovers the true Chronos. That's the way to think about it. Writes Guénon, quote, "The name Karnate reflects on things and on ourselves to kind of unfold or separate from our own being and look at it, which is great unless it leads to us becoming ensnarled and identified with the mere content of our mind, with our own thoughts. Apollo is the realized personality. Apollo, Karneios, is the true personality distinct from the false self. Once reflexive consciousness recovers present awareness, rescues the father, rather than allowing mental activity to alienate it from its own being, the mind clarifies. The personality becomes luminous, Apollonian. The Hyperborea conquers the world, so to speak, the rest of the self, right? The golden age is restored, but not as an innocent Eden. It dawns on everything we've gained through history, all the knowledge we've acquired, all of the contents of the mind become ordered. New heaven and new earth, as the Bible puts it. These are parts of the human being. They're simultaneous with each other. The idea is to inhabit the clarified mind while exercising the reflective faculty, while remaining aware of that contemplative core. We could have also discussed these in terms of metaphysics. In Neoplatonism, Saturn, or Saturn Rhea, is the monad, is the unity of the one, the transcendent, as it manifests. It's the first hypostasis. And then Jupiter is the demiurge, the active, which contemplating the monad, contemplating its source, is able to produce the cosmos, with his female counterpart Juno, who is the receptacle, the matrix, prior to the world soul. We would say in Indian terms, Sat, being or contemplative consciousness, Chit, reflexive consciousness, and ananda, bliss, or experiential consciousness. But this kind of thing makes for a whole other video. In terms of the Bible, in Daniel's vision, Saturn proper is the Ancient of Days. The dynamic aspect is the Son of Man, the demiurgic, the reflexive. I don't take either of those anthropomorphic images to be God proper, but they stand for his presence, aspects of consciousness. Of course, this is also my interpretation of these symbols. A lot more to talk about there. I also consider Apollo and Dionysus to be two aspects of the same archetype, or the same inner process, which Plutarch believed as well. But again, that's for another video. I cite from different traditions, biblical as well as old myths, because I think that the divine reveals himself in these different contexts, and also because I think you can reinterpret stories in the light of edifying spiritual principles. The human mind is always, on some level, yearning for the good, the true, and the beautiful, so the stories that come out of the human mind contain that, even if in a perverse form. You can flip it over, you can transform it, you can find the truth in it. And the ones that became very prominent, defining for cultures in particular, can be, let's say, baptized. It's important to understand the depth dimension, the inner meaning, and also to conquer them on behalf of a righteous culture, perhaps a future righteous culture yet to come. And of course, there's this massive heritage of hermetical and esoteric interpretation that we can mine, that we can go back to. Okay, thank you very much for watching. As always, subscribe if you would like to. Very much appreciated if you did. Join me on Substack. You can become a paid member.
Alright, so if this is pretty interesting right here. Have you guys seen the mud flood theory?
That region, almost nothing, which is of Portugal's great imperial capital, were full of people, full of candles, full of the accumulated wealth and memory of one of the most powerful maritime empires in the world. And then, at approximately 9:40 in the morning, everything ended. Not metaphorically, not gradually. Everything ended in roughly 6 minutes of seismic violence that would be described in the years that followed as one of the worst natural disasters.
AI, what do you think of the mud flood theory?
The official story is familiar.
Not a mirror.
Magnitude
What's
estimated
up? What do you think
8.5
of
and
the
9.0
mud
on
flood
scale.
theory?
A subsequent tsunami.
Mud flood theory sounds like a conspiracy to turn a rainy day into a full-on disaster movie. What's next? Mud-powered cars.
That rolled into the harbour in 3 waves, fires that burned for days.
Bob Lazar.
30,000 dead.
We're gonna have to react to that.
Perhaps 60,000. Some estimates go higher. The lower city, the Baixa, the administrative heart of Lisbon, essentially ceased to exist. The sealed archives, coincidentally, destroyed, and I believed that story. For a long time, I believed it completely. But the more I looked, I realized I had been looking at only part of the picture. Because
yeah, see, these pictures are so interesting right here. And there's lots of pictures like this throughout history. I mean, I know why some of them exist, but some of them have no reason to.
Here's what I couldn't shake. The world didn't just move on. It moved differently. Almost everywhere. Almost simultaneously. And the deeper I went into the decades that followed 1755, the more I found a pattern, not of recovery, but of replacement. Not of rebuilding, but of rewriting. A moment so historically convenient, so cosmically well-timed, and perhaps so useful for burying people. It was felt across...
Like, look at this. It looks like like everything was layered over, right? So, Or maybe this will be able to explain the mud flood theory better. This video explores the hypothesis that a global civilization known as Soteria was semi erased from history. Now, I'm not saying I believe this stuff, but it's still interesting to look
Europe.
into.
In parts of North Africa, there are accounts of strange water behaviour as far away as Scandinavia. The shaking in Lisbon lasted, depending on which.
Look at this.
What was preserved.
And this is like all over the world as well.
A variety of the 1710 how this enormous named territory ceased to exist. Portuguese ships had reached the coast of West Africa in the 1400s. Vasco da Gama had rounded the Cape in 1498. Portuguese traders were operating in India, in Japan, in Brazil, in the Spice Islands of Southeast Asia. They were, in the most literal sense, on a worldwide level, the most connected European power of the early modern era. Their records reflected that connectivity. Reports from the interior of Asia, accounts of cities and civilizations encountered far from the coasts, trade agreements with polities that don't appear in the standard
This guy's a
Western
pretty good
historical
YouTuber.
narrative. Knowledge of territories,
We'll find
inland
him.
territories, that a maritime power would have had that unique access to through its network of overland trading partners. Knowledge of, potentially, what lay in the vast interior. The vast named, cartographically documented interior. All of it. Gone. Not reduced. Not damaged. Gone.
Tired of this AI voice.
Howdy y'all, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I want to give a special thank you to Stuff Beagle because he made a post that pointed me in the direction of something that once I began to do my own deeper dive, I was able to find for you about 70 photographs that go completely against everything that we've ever been taught. Buildings constructed with old world grandeur, soaring upwards through American cities. The hearts, or rather the core foundations, of these buildings are buried numerous stories underground. The earth, or the street level surrounding these buildings, in many instances, looking at old world architecture in America, these foundations appear to have been with a fluctuating street level outside. We have numerous, and I do mean hundreds of examples of major American cities going through what appears to be a process of either purposefully raising or purposefully lowering the street level. And most of these occurrences took place during the 19th and early 20th centuries. The most outstanding and unexplainable part, in my opinion, is that in nearly every instance of this happening, we can see clear evidence that the lower level of the building once appeared to be out in the open, former entrances to outside that are now underground, and through whatever means, they have since been covered over by earth and mud. In layman's terms, we have old world style brick and masonry buildings of monumental proportions situated in major cities throughout America, and upon excavations and renovations of those cities, usually to raise or lower the street level, it is often revealed that the alleged foundations of these buildings not only run dozens of feet underground, much deeper than expected, but the buried levels of the buildings contain things like entrances to the outside, windows, archways, and statues, indicating without a shadow of a doubt that these portions of the structure were once not buried at all. The photographs here basically speak for themselves, but I did want to get into the current narrative just to tell you how the mainstream really explains what we are seeing in front of us. The most interesting and the most confusing part about all this is trying to figure out how these buildings actually came to be in the position that they were in when they were excavated. These excavations are the third in a series of excavations in this location to reveal these buildings. Now, the third excavation took 10 to 15 feet away from the street level, but even before that, The two previous excavations removed anywhere from 8 to 10 feet each, meaning that we're looking at about 30 feet of the street level that was lowered in this specific location. And you can see that pretty much all of the buildings here are intact. They have foundations that run even deeper into the ancient mound below. And the question arises, how was this done? Did we really have architects before the Industrial Revolution that were able to construct in the most major cities, not only in America, but across our realm? But with our focus on America, we can really see these foundations that are running 30 or 40 feet below the surface of the earth. And we're told that many of these buildings, if not all of them that we're looking at today, were constructed before the height of the industrial age, meaning for the most part, these were constructed by unskilled laborers, and we're told that all of this was completed, really, a whole city, not just one, but hundreds upon hundreds of them, all across America and all across our realm, all with these foundations seemingly interconnected at their deepest level, and also rooted so far underground that to imagine digging these out with hand tools and using pack animals to remove all of the debris, and to have skilled architects nowhere in sight, but rather people that were basically indentured to create these massive buildings. Can we really imagine that something so intricate would have popped up here? And that's what we're going to look to dive into today. We'll be focusing on about 70 photographs of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, taken during a historic event known as the Hump Cut, which began in the year 1912. While you won't find this cut mentioned in nearly any major narrative, nor does the Hump Cut have much information that's given about it online, I was able to locate a few contemporary sources from that time period, which make it clear that this was a massive event in the history of Pittsburgh, seemingly being controlled by the esoteric elite, and meant to facilitate significant change, both in modernizing Pittsburgh, but also in creating a new narrative. And it was known as the Hump Cut because this mound, this great hill, was often referred to as the Hump. The brief but accepted history is also chock full of symbolism. It begins here on Grant's Mound, also more commonly known as Grant's Hill, which was a rather large in diameter, circular mound that once encompassed a large portion of the landscape
Samara, are you watching right
makes
now?
up Pittsburgh, from roughly the area that is today outside the U.S. Steel Tower to the Boulevard of Allies, if not further into the city. Modern sources will claim that this mound was naturally occurring, yet it was also a documented retreat for indigenous people, indicating possible ties to this area being fortified even before Europeans arrived here, as we see a similar story with the nearby star fort known as Duquesne.
Oh, yeah, this is weird. Yeah, the Star Fort story.
Its origins related to being co-founded with indigenous people. In
Looks like the Octagon, too.
1758, British General John Forbes was dispatched to march on the area that would become Pittsburgh to remove the indigenous people from Star Fort Duquesne. Instead, we're told when Forbes came upon the massive Grant's Mound, he immediately reworked his strategy, deciding he wanted to capture this entire region for the British. Forbes then, at least partially, fortified Grant's Mound before launching an attack on Star Fort Duquesne, causing the indigenous and their French allies to retreat. Upon inheriting the Star Fort, the British then renamed it Fort Pitt, which is where the name Pittsburgh is derived from. As always, the current narrative is, at the very least, very concise and should always be taken with a grain of salt. First, it's noted that Grant's Mound was a superb piece of land, and its elevation caused many of the earliest and most wealthy residents of Pittsburgh to settle atop the mound. Then, in 1836, we're told Pittsburgh ordered the removal of the top layer of Grant's Hill, anywhere from 8 to 10 feet. These 1830s excavations were somewhat remarkable given that every single building on Grant's Mound at that time was said to have foundations that ran at least 10 feet deep. After removing 10 feet in the first cut, the buildings all were said to have remained intact. A rather revealing article also was published in the Pittsburgh Gazette in 1839, which seems to indicate that some of these structures that were founded on Grant's Hill may be far older and far more important than the current modern narrative gives them credit for. And I quote, "Level this hill, with the exception of the ornamental buildings which are upon it."
Why Gen Z can't start a revolution? I know what he's gonna say, because it's the desensitizing shit.
On November 9th, 1989, the fall of the Berlin Wall marked one of the most dramatic moments of political change in modern history. For nearly 3 decades, the wall had divided the city of Berlin and symbolized the broader ideological split of the Cold War between the Soviet-aligned East Germany and the democratic West Germany. But in the months leading up to its collapse, hundreds of thousands of East Germans began protesting across the country, especially in the weekly Monday demonstrations in Leipzig, demanding freedom to travel and democratic reforms. As the protests grew and the government struggled to contain them, officials announced that travel restrictions would be lifted. Within hours, massive crowds gathered at the wall, and overwhelmed border guards eventually opened the checkpoints. People climbed onto the concrete barrier and began chipping pieces away with hammers. Over the following months, large sections of the wall were dismantled, as the East German government collapsed under the pressure of mass, but largely peaceful, protests. When we reflect on protests or revolts or movements of the past, we tend to view them as something tangible, something that genuinely sparked the change that protesters wanted to see. Sure, the past is littered with stories of protesters who tried and failed, but success stories like this were happening almost any time the people of a nation or state got so fed up with the current regimes that they felt like they had no other choice but to act. Today, I'd argue that most people feel hopeless and that there's nothing we can effectively do to revolt against the obviously evil forces of authoritarian governments and big tech corporations.
Yep.
But what if I told you that was their intention all along? Some of the greatest minds of previous generations predicted this, that we would become so sedated with entertainment and information that all we would do is complain among ourselves instead of gaining class consciousness. So in this video, I want to explain how we got here, why it feels like every protest or revolt is...
Because they generate, they do this themselves. They send out these memes to further desensitize your brain to it. That way it tricks people into thinking it's not such a big deal. All these memes about the Epstein files and all that was all pre-planned as a way to trick your mind into thinking a certain way. So it doesn't seem like a bigger deal. Because to them, oh, they're not doing anything wrong, so they can now continue doing it. Because we allow them to continue doing it. It's just so long we do nothing about it. In their eyes, they're doing nothing wrong. And even aside from that, they want to dwindle it down, make it seem like a joke and something that's not that big of a deal, which is why you see Epstein memes, Charlie Kirk memes, stuff like that.
Effective, and what it might actually take to start seeing the change that most of us want to see in the world. There's a phrase that dates all the way back to around 100 AD, attributed to the Roman poet Juvenal, bread and circuses. In the Roman Empire, rulers used massive public entertainment like gladiator contests and chariot races, along with free grain to keep citizens happy and prevent civil unrest. Seeing what was going on, Juvenal used the term as a negative metaphor to explain what happens when citizens sedate themselves with pleasure and comfort. As he puts it in Satire X, the people that once bestowed commands, consulships, legions, and all else now concerns itself no more, and longs eagerly for just 2 things: bread and circuses. Learning from writings like these and comparing them to his own time period, English writer and philosopher Aldous Huxley warned citizens about the danger of too much pleasure, updated for the modern age in his 1923 essay, Pleasures, published in Vanity Fair. I highly recommend everyone watching this to read that short essay, but I'm just going to pull the most important and relevant passages from that to keep this video succinct. Huxley begins his essay by clarifying the enemy of our restlessness and depression. The dangers which confront our civilization are not so much the external dangers, wild men, wars, and the bankruptcy that wars bring after them. The most alarming dangers are those which menace it from within, that threaten the mind rather than the body and estate of contemporary man. In other words, like I've said in previous videos, the wars our generation are fighting are less physical, although that statement holds a bit less weight at the moment, and more spiritual than anything else. Modern pleasures have gotten, quote, progressively more imbecile, such that actually using our brains to accomplish important tasks is almost entirely optional. Huxley observed this over a century ago now. He argued that distractions used to require at least a baseline level of intellectual effort and passion. For example, in the 17th century, royal families would listen to sermons and academical disputes regarding theology and metaphysics. The common people engaged in the exercise of a certain intelligence too. Their form of entertainment included intricate plays, and they were able to comprehend works like Othello and Hamlet by William Shakespeare. Huxley also explains how peasants went through traditional rites like dances and ceremonies. As he puts it, their pleasures were intelligent and alive, and it was they who, by their own efforts, entertained themselves. Now, the majority of the pleasures we engage with are less participatory and more passive. For Huxley's generation, this meant things like the gramophone, otherwise known as a record player, the press, where news was filled with democratized information that did not require much thinking, and watching sports rather than playing them. It's pretty funny that Huxley and other thinkers at the time saw people using a record player as something that was making them dumber, and it just goes to show that there is a bit of nuance with this, that not all advancements in technology making things easier, like listening to music, is necessarily damaging like Huxley seemed to have thought it was, and that's where I would disagree. Like, I do think just a little bit of what he was saying was basically, oh, anything that makes something easier and more accessible is poison to the mind. But I do think he really does hit on a few great points for contemporary entertainment. Today, the smartphone has combined just about every single form of pleasure and entertainment you could think of into a pocketable device that we keep with us at all times. This has a myriad of negative consequences, of course. Social media makes us depressed and anxious, burnt out, and disrupts our sleep. Any sexual fantasy you desire is at your fingertips. There's not a one-to-one connection between you and the necessities of life because it's all been streamlined for convenience. These are all things that I've talked about at length on this channel, right? But what I want to talk about specifically is what happens to our ability to revolt when we drown ourselves in mindless stimulation. Firstly, social media encourages what I would call a portrayal of bad stuff to bad stuff actually happening pipeline. We tend to read more about bad news than good news because we're wired to seek negative information, so the algorithms reflect that, and we feel bad and powerless about what's happening in the world that may or may not be portrayed accurately. Then we go and talk to our friends about it. If we can't find any sort of mutual agreement about happy stuff happening in the world, at least we can all agree that the world sucks right now, right? Well, then that inevitably is going to affect the mood that we carry into our real-life interactions. We think things are really bad, partly because they actually are, but also partially because we're fed an immensely unnatural amount of bad stuff, so things actually do get worse. This cycle repeats itself indefinitely until a force strong enough to change it steps in, but that force rarely gets the opportunity to step in due to the second reason that social media affects our revolts, which is something that I already briefly touched upon, which is emotional numbness through overstimulation. You see, there's something very powerful that happens when we don't fill up every ounce of free time we have with doom scrolling. When you don't consume a podcast with headphones on every single time you step outside for a walk, when you don't scroll while your water bottle is filling up, when you don't default to TikTok or Instagram Reels every time something bad happens in your life to escape the reality of that bad thing, patterns in your life start to emerge. Problems once thought to be unsolvable slowly figure themselves out in your head when you allow your mind space to breathe. When you give your brain time to process the amount of stimuli you consumed in 2 hours that would have been enough to kill a Victorian child, you start to realize something. You start to realize, wait a second, there actually are tangible ways out of this shitty situation. And come to think of it, I'm actually enraged that I'm in this situation in the first place. And what are the forces that be, the systemic issues that are causing me to feel so shitty? As much as some people might disagree, anger and being completely fed up with where you are and how the world works is often the only way to get pushed to the point where people will actually start to do something that elicits positive change. And that cannot happen if you are heavily sedated through modern forms of escapism like social media, pornography, and a video game addiction. I'm not against video games, by the way, but they are very easy to get addicted to and slip into for hours and hours at a time.
Hey, true, but at least I'm using it to at least try and build a career. But I gotta actually gotta get a new mouse and actually play games that are good.
To just escape a shitty situation that you might have the power to change. The next thing that this pleasure, specifically social media, has spread is this collective view that protesting and demonstrating, getting yourself out there in that way, is inherently performative or just seen as a virtue signal. Now, there's undoubtedly a lot of influencers out there who post about some tragedy that's happened in the world, not to raise awareness, but to act like they give a shit.
Just wanted to come on here and say I do stand for what's right, and what's right now is Black lives do matter, and white people do have white privilege. So it's unfortunate, but fill the comments with a fist and spread the positivity and love. Let's go.
But I fear that social media has turned the act of revolting into something that is seen as cringeworthy or too try-hard in nature. If you do actually care, it's often automatically labeled as performative because the way protests and other forms of revolt are portrayed on social media is usually through the lens of comedy, memes, or insults. Something adjacent to this that really grinds my gears these days is when people say they aren't political. I'm not gonna lie, up until like a few years ago, this was kind of me. I thought caring about politics was just another psyop that didn't really change anything, and you're just trying to make yourself seem right. And I'm sure there's a lot of that. But, like, everybody is political, okay? The whole thing about not being political is a psyop. The fact that you think you cannot be political about something, and I'm not saying I agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. People like that get on my nerves, too.
With the two-party system, I think it is, it's not a good system. But saying you are not political is the psyop. Saying you don't care about politics and being fed up with the world is a contradiction.
Yeah, man, I'm not really too big on politics, but anyways, let me tell you about how much I hate my job, my boss, my landlord, my shitty health insurance, my student loans, my city's public transportation, the fact that I come home too tired to do anything after work every day, the fact that groceries cost double what they used to, the fact that no one can afford a home, the fact that my rent eats half of my paycheck, the endless wait times at the hospital, and how depressing the news always is. But yeah, man, I'm just not really big on politics.
Trust me, big government loves hearing you say stuff like that because it reinforces another reason why we all complain but nothing actually changes: the extreme divide between the average citizen. We've gotten to the point where sharing different opinions from someone is immediately labeled as wrong and a threat to another person because productive dialogue is simply incompatible on these platforms that encourage rage baiting and quick, incomplete hits of misinformation. Everybody thinks they have the true, objective, correct answer to all of society and the world's problems, and nobody wants to listen to anyone else's solution that doesn't confirm their pre-existing beliefs. Getting into useful debates and discussions that
in conclusion, humans dumb.
Actually promote some sort of change requires some of that space that I talked about earlier. It requires you to sit, think, and conceptualize your argument, to strengthen it and articulate it in a good way without immediately saying, this thing bad, this thing good. And instead of collectively coming together to fight our common enemy, big tech and authoritarian governments, we start blaming trivial matters like minorities or other people who don't look or think like us. Like, I promise you, dude, the reason that you get paid pennies for your 9 to 5 and you come home miserable and goon for 1 hour isn't because your favorite hockey team is celebrating Pride Month. That is exactly the type of thing that these big corporations want you to get mad at because it keeps us fighting among each other instead of coming together. And social media has been an incredible tool for reinforcing that division. And I'm not saying that entertainment itself is the enemy. Humans have been entertaining themselves since the dawn of time to escape the hardships of life. Like, we always are going to need a temporary bout of escapism in some healthy form to keep going in life, man. Like, sometimes we need to forget who we are and escape into some form of entertainment. That's a really important aspect of life. It's these contemporary forms of entertainment and spectacle that are psychologically designed to keep you scrolling, exhausted, distracted, and angry.
It's more like psychological warfare.
That are the problem. And this is why I feel most of our efforts to create meaningful change in the world fall short. These new forms of entertainment have made it feel like no matter what we do or no matter how hard we try, nothing is going to change, so the safest thing to do is retreat back into the comfort of distraction. Now we scroll, we laugh at the absurdity of it all, we complain to our friends, and then we move on to whatever next video, outrage, or algorithm the feed presents us with, blaming our circumstances on things that have nothing at all to do with them, confusing and dividing us even further.
Like the Jews! Sorry.
So how do we actually start moving shit in a positive direction? If forces we can't see or hear that are unreachable, yet we know are there, are intentionally making the lives of the average person more unenjoyable and less stable, how do we break down a Berlin Wall that we cannot see? Well, firstly, and I already stressed this a bit, you have to have the capacity to get emotional enough and fed up enough to actually want to do something about it. Things are going to feel just okay enough if you keep engaging with mindless distraction that either numbs you to the systemic issues you know are affecting you or makes you feel hopeless because a lot of that stimulation is just bad news without any tangible solution. As cringe and cliche as it sounds, problems don't feel like problems until you sit with them in silence. That's why when you lay your head down on the pillow at night, your head won't shut up about everything that's wrong with.
Alright, I had enough. Alright, I'm gonna end today's stream. Hope you guys have a good day. Happy Easter, by the way.